Hey kitty, you want to come here? Hi. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle and today I'm going to be talking about why you, an INTJ, or if you have a friend who's an INTJ, should be proud that you are an INTJ. So, of course, every type has their strengths and weaknesses, but today we're going to be talking about the strengths of the INTJ so that you can feel a little good about yourself, because this world is, really trying to make everyone feel bad about themselves. So let's just feel good for a little while and just, boast a little bit. Let me break down the cognitive functions first, because sure, INTJ, the letters are there to help you know and indicate what the cognitive functions are, but if you don't know, the cognitive function stack of an INTJ is introverted intuition, extroverted thinking, introverted feeling, and extroverted sensing. And those work together in a very specific way that is unique to the INTJ. Leading with introverted intuition is a skill that is probably one of the most idealized of all the skills you could have in the MBTI community, and I think that's for good reason. I don't think that you should idealize any of the cognitive functions, but I definitely understand why it's happening with introverted intuition. Introverted intuition is like having the ability to be psychic. Now, why I say that is because the way that the INTJ looks at the world with introverted intuition is they see the reality, they see concrete reality, and they say, what is going to happen? What is it going to be like? And they don't flitter around with possibilities that will never come to be or that seem unlikely. They clear all those away, and they have a pretty clear and direct view of how things are going to go. You often see people with lead introverted intuition saying things like, yeah, this is how that's going to end, or that's not going to work, or we should do it this way because that's the only way it's going to work. They say things like that, and sometimes, it can sound a little bit cocky, or it can sound like they're just pulling this stuff from thin air, but they're not, because they're taking a look at what's really there, they're looking at the patterns, and they're able to see what's going to happen. And the really interesting thing about introverted intuition is that, unlike introverted sensing, they don't need to have experience with that. They don't need to have seen things like this before. They can make the connection between what's happening now to similar things and use that to make very accurate predictions of things that they have never experienced before. And the INTJ specifically uses extroverted thinking to kind of filter those predictions, to kind of give direction to those predictions. So extroverted thinking is all about, does this work? Is it going to give me the result that I want? Does it make sense? Do other people say that it makes sense? And TE, or extroverted thinking, does this thing where it looks at how all these different people are thinking about something and uses that to determine sort of like a general rule of how things go. A lot of times INTJs are going to kind of skim the surface of understanding things that they don't really feel the need to learn fully, because if there's no practical reason to learn things fully, what's the point in learning it when there's other things that they could fill their time with? And you're rarely going to find a lazy INTJ because they're constantly wanting to know more, to understand more, but it has to have a reason. They have to know why they're trying to learn it, and they want to be able to use the knowledge that they're gaining. And so with their ability to make predictions, those are all filtered around, is this going to work? Does this make sense? What's the long-term, the long-term sustainability of this idea? These are the kinds of things that they think about, which makes them incredible planners, and you're going to find a lot of INTJs who like to plan. I'm not saying they all do, but most INTJs that I have come across really like to plan things. And yeah, actually, now that I say really like to, I don't think that most of them necessarily like to plan things, but they find necessity in doing so that they can really be efficient and make use of the time, because their ultimate goal is to take their introverted intuition vision and make it a reality. And extroverted thinking helps them make that happen. And planning is a really, really important part of making that vision happen, because without it, they might get too caught up in idealizing and thinking about things. Something that I've noticed is that it's not really talked about how much of idealists INTJs are, because there is this sort of cynicism that tends to come with a lot of INTJs, where they're like, the world is screwed, etc. But there is a sort of optimism with that introverted intuition paired with the extroverted thinking, and they even will take on things that they don't necessarily, or other people might not necessarily think that they can accomplish, but they know that they can. They have this kind of air about them that they know that it's going to work because, they grew up with introverted intuition. They grew up being right most of the time about how things are going to play out. And they're good at it. They're going to be good at it. This is why it's envied by a lot of people, because someone like me who has extroverted intuition, I see 500 ways that something could play out. I couldn't tell you with the certainty that an INTJ could that something is going to actually work. All I can tell you is that the possibility is that it could work, and I'm fine with that. They prefer a little bit more certainty, and that's what makes them good at finding certainty. So next is their third function, which is their introverted feeling, which I think is what gives them real intrigue for me personally. That introverted feeling causes them to form incredibly strong moral convictions about very specific things, to have attachments to certain kinds of things, to have strong, well understood preferences for things. You're going to find a lot of INTJs who have strong opinions, and they're going to have a lot of passion for their interests. And this is because of their introverted feeling. It's really interesting because they block out, for the most part, what other people have interest in, what other people really care about, and they care about what they care about. Now, a lot of people see this as them not being very nice, but I see this as them being very invested in their own dreams, and that is a wonderful skill. I wish I was a little bit more invested in my dreams, like a lot of INTJs tend to be. Another thing is that they do really have strong moral convictions oftentimes, and you might be thinking, oh, but they don't care if so-and-so gets hurt. The thing is, they don't care so much necessarily. This is a generality. I'm speaking quite subjectively here, but they don't care as much how things affect other people, how other people are going to respond emotionally to things. They don't really care about that much. But if it's something that they value it fully. And that kind of conviction is hard to find. And I don't think it's selfish, because their extroverted thinking is built in the external world. So after that, after their introverted feeling, they have extroverted sensing. And extroverted sensing is what allows them that concrete understanding of the real world that I was talking about earlier. Extroverted sensing is here, present, in the moment, see things as they are, and can actually be pretty forceful. Now, INTJs tend to have this ability to just be blunt and direct with people. That's not as much what I mean by being forceful. I mean that they have an idea of what they want, and they work to make that happen with vigor. And they might not always have the motivation or the willpower to make it happen themselves, But these are the kind of people who know who they can ask to get the things that they need when it comes to making their visions a reality, and I find that a fantastic skill. Something that I've noticed, and INTJs, if you're watching this, you can corroborate or, say that I'm totally off, but I've noticed that a lot of people who have fourth slot extroverted sensing, so INFJs and INTJs, you guys tend to have an acute sensitivity to the external world. And what I mean is, if there's water dripping, if there's an animal licking itself, if there's a car driving by, if there is a flicker in the light, if there's a fly zooming around the room, you're quite aware of that, and it causes you to not be able to focus. It distracts you very easily, these kind of external stimuli. This is just something that I noticed, 100% subjective. It's not a hard and fast rule. In fact, none of what I'm talking about is hard and fast. It's all subjective. However, I do think that I have a lot of experience with INTJs, and I've formed this after thinking about and talking to these many different INTJs. But if you agree with anything that I said, please let me know. If you disagree with anything, please clear it up in the comments. That's what it's all about, is to have conversation and discourse. And with that, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a beautiful, amazing, fantastic day. Bye!